Random House Audio presents The Charlemagne Pursuit by Steve Barry, read for you by Scott Brick. Study the past if you would divine the future. Confucius. The ancient masters were subtle, mysterious, profound, responsive. The depth of their knowledge is unfathomable. Because it is unfathomable, all we can do is describe their appearance. Watchful, like men crossing a winter stream. Alert, like men aware of danger. Courteous, like visiting guests. Yielding, like ice about to melt. Simple, like uncarved blocks of wood. Lao Tzu, 604 BCE. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind. Proverbs 11:29. Prologue, November 1971. The alarm sounded and Forrest Malone came alert. "Depth," he called out. 600 feet. What's beneath us? Another 2,000 feet of cold water. His gaze raked the active dials, gauges, and thermometers. In the tiny con, the helmsman sat to his right, the plainsman squeezed in on the left. Both men kept their hands locked on control sticks. Power flickered on and off. Slow to 2 knots. The submarine lurched in the water. The alarm stopped. The con went dark. "Captain, report from reactor room. Circuit breaker is blown on one of the control rods." He knew what had happened. The safety mechanisms built into the temperamental thing had automatically dropped the other rods. The reactor had scrammed, shut itself down. Only one possible course of action. Switch to batteries. Dim emergency lights came on. His engineering officer, Flanders, a neat and deliberate professional on whom he'd come to depend, stepped into the con. Malone said, "Talk to me, Tom." "I don't know how bad it is or how long it's going to take to fix, but we need to lighten the electrical load." They'd lost power before, several times in fact, and he knew batteries could provide temporary power for as long as 2 days, provided they were careful. His crew had trained rigorously for just this kind of situation, but once a reactor scrammed, the manual said it had to be restarted within an hour. If more time passed, then the boat had to be taken to the nearest port. And that was 1,500 miles away. "Shut down everything we don't need," he said. "Captain, it's going to be hard holding her steady," the helmsman noted. He understood Archimedes' law. An object that weighed the same as an equal volume of water would neither sink nor float. Instead, it would remain level at neutral buoyancy. Every sub functioned by that basic rule, kept under water with engines that drove it forward. Without power, there'd be no engines, no diving planes, no momentum. All problems that could easily be alleviated by surfacing, but above them wasn't open ocean. They were pinned beneath a ceiling of ice. "Captain, engine room reports a minor leak in the hydraulic plant." "Minor leak?" he asked. "Now?" "It was noticed earlier, but with the power down, they request permission to shut a valve to stop the leak so a hose can be replaced." "Logical. Do it. And I hope that's the end of the bad news." He turned toward the sonar tech. "Anything in front of us?" Submariners all took their cues from others who'd sailed before them, and those who'd first fought frozen seas passed down 2 lessons. Never hit anything frozen if you don't have to, and, if that's not possible, place the bow to the ice, push gently, and pray. "Clean ahead," sonar reported. "Starting to drift," the helmsman said. "Compensate, but go easy on the power." The sub's nose suddenly pitched down. "What the hell?" he muttered. "Stern planes have gone to full dive," yelled the plainsman, who rose to his feet and pulled back on the control stick. "I can't get them to respond." "Blount," Malone hollered. "Help him." The man fled the sonar station and rushed to assist. The downward angle increased. Malone gripped the plotting table as everything that wasn't attached tumbled forward in a wild avalanche. "Emergency plane control," he barked. The angle increased. "Beyond 45 degrees, the helmsman reported. "Still on full dive. Not working." Malone gripped the table harder and fought to maintain his balance. 900 feet and dropping. The depth indicator changed so fast the numbers blurred. The boat was rated to 3,000 feet, but the bottom was coming up fast and the outside water pressure was rising. Too much, too fast, and the hull would implode. But slamming into the seabed in a powered dive wasn't a pleasant prospect either. Only one thing left to do. All back emergency. Blow all ballast tanks. The boat shook as machinery obeyed his command. Propellers reversed and compressed air thundered into tanks, forcing water out. The helmsman held tight. The plainsman readied himself for what Malone knew was coming. Positive buoyancy returned. The descent slowed. The bow angled upward, then leveled. "Control the flow," he ordered. "Keep us neutral. I don't want to go up." The plainsman responded to his command. "How far to the bottom?" Blount returned to his station. 200 feet. Malone's gaze shot to the depth indicator. 2,400. The hull groaned from the strain but held. His eyes locked on the openings indicators. Lights showed all valves and breeches closed. Finally, some good news. "Set us down." The advantage of this sub over all others was its ability to rest on the ocean floor. It was just one of many specialized traits the design possessed, like the aggravating power and control system, of which they'd just experienced a graphic demonstration. The sub settled on the bottom. Everyone in the con stared at one another. No one spoke. No one had to. Malone knew what they were thinking. That was close. "Do we know what happened?" he asked. "Engine room reports that when that valve was closed for repair, the normal and emergency steering and dive systems failed. That's never happened before. Could they tell me something I don't know? The valve is now reopened." He smiled at his engineer's way of saying, "If I knew more, I'd tell you." "Okay, tell them to fix it. What about the reactor?" They'd surely used a crapload of battery power fighting the unscheduled descent. "Still down," his executive officer reported. That hour for restart was fast expiring. "Captain," Blount said from the sonar station, "contact outside the hull. Solid. Multiple. We seem to be nestled in a boulder field." He decided to risk more power. "Cameras and outside lights on, but this will be a quick look-see." The video displays sprang to life in clear water speckled with glistening bits of life. Boulders surrounded the sub, lying at angles across the seabed. "That's odd," one of the men said. He noticed it too. They're not boulders. They're blocks. And large ones. Rectangles and squares. Focus in on one. Blount operated the controls and the camera's focus tightened on the face of one of the stones. "Holy crap," his exec said. Markings marred the rock. Not writing, or at least nothing he recognized. A cursive style, rounded and fluid. Individual letters seemed grouped together like words, but none he could read. "It's on the other blocks, too," Blount said, and Malone studied the remaining screens. They were engulfed by ruin, the pieces of which loomed like spirits. "Shut down the cameras," he said. At the moment, power, not curiosities, was his main concern. "Are we okay here if we sit still?" "We settled in a clearing," Blount said. "We're fine." An alarm sounded. He located the source. Electrical panels. "Captain, they need you forward," yelled his second-in-command over the squelch. He scrambled from the con and hustled toward the ladder that led up into the sail. His engineer was already standing at its base. The alarm stopped. He felt heat and his eyes locked on the decking. He bent down and lightly touched the metal. Hot as hell. Not good. 150 silver-zinc batteries lay beneath the decking in an aluminum well. He'd learned from bitter experience that their makeup was far more artistic than scientific. They constantly malfunctioned. An engineer's mate worked 4 screws that held the decking in place, freeing them one by one.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?